I'm Paul Sullivan, your host on the Company of Dads podcast, where we explore the sweet, sublime, strange, and silly aspects of being a lead dad in a world where men often feel they have to hide, or at least not talk about their parenting role. I know this from firsthand experience as a lead dad to my 3 girls, 3 dogs, 3 cats, and somewhat remarkably, 3 fish who are still alive. I did this all while managing my career and striving to be an above average husband. One thing I know for sure about being a lead dad is it's not a normal role. You're not doing what dads have traditionally done, going to work and leaving the parenting to mom or someone else. Nor are you always welcome into the world where moms are the primary caregivers. But here at the Company of Dads, our goal is to shake all that off and focus on what really matters: family, friendship, finance, and fun. Today, my guest is Tino Ricci. I met Tino nearly 49 years ago in a drafty church in Western Massachusetts, where we were both dressed in flowy silk robes and about to get doused with water. We managed to avoid each other for a few years after that, but by age 10, we were hanging out at camp and playing golf. We went to high school together, visited each other in college, slept on each other's couches after school, helped each other move stuff into and around our first homes, went to each other's weddings, and were then there when our first children arrived. After all that, the rat bastard moved to outside of Fort Worth, Texas a few years ago and left me in the New York City area. Welcome, Tino, to the Company of Dads podcast.
Thank you, bud.
Did I leave anything out in the intro?
No, I think you got it all. I mean, you covered it all. We've known each other for far too long. And if either one of us ever decides to run for any kind of office, we're definitely going to have to grease the other one because we know where all the bodies are buried.
That's for a different podcast. We're going to talk about dads and dadding and kids. You've been a dad longer than me. Your oldest is 15. My oldest is 12. What's it been like when you think about, you're living in Western Massachusetts when Christian was born. Now you're outside of, Fort Worth. When you think of, that kind of dad role, how's it evolved for you over the 15 years?
It's actually been a pretty dramatic evolution. When my son was born, I was in a pretty demanding job. I was scheduled 55 hours a week with an hour commute. So, that puts me in the 65 hours gone from home a week range. Plus, something pops up, you end up staying late, whatever. I was gone on average somewhere between 70 and 75 hours a week when my son was first born. There were multiple days where, I would go without having ever laid eyes on him other than when he was asleep, because I would leave when he was asleep and I would come home when he was asleep. And it was hard. It took a toll on me just because I felt like I was missing everything. So the wife and I, we kind of got together and decided that something needed to change. And so I kind of took a step back from what I was doing work-wise. And her and I kind of sort of ham and egged our schedules where, as a kid, she grew up, all she ever wanted to do was be a nurse. So when she had that opportunity that came up for her to be a nurse, I was like, go, that's your dream, have at it. My dream certainly was not to, be retail for the rest of my life. So I'm willing to compromise what I'm doing because it's not what I had dreamed of doing. She dreamed of being a nurse, go at it. And, I was fortunate enough that the company I worked for at the time was willing to work with me to schedule around her schedule. So I could be there when she wasn't, and she could be there when I wasn't. And it worked out all right.
But if I remember correctly, sort of early days, Tino, Tiff was in nursing school, right? And so then you were balancing even more. She was a full-time student. You were we can, if it's okay, we'll say where you work. It's a great company. You work for the Home Depot. You work for them a long time. They've always been good to you. But you really had to balance then because, your son was pretty little at the time. We all know in America that there isn't, cheap, affordable daycare for everyone. It was a real sort of balancing act. So talk about how, in those early days, obviously you have a daughter, you got 2 kids, but the early days of just you and Tiff and your son, how you had to, ham and egg it so, you could work because somebody needed to work, but she could be a student. How did that work?
Honestly, a lot of it was relying heavily on family members. to say, hey, we've got this day here where we just can't make it work for whatever reason. Her class schedule, my work schedule, we can't make it work. We've got a block of 4 hours that we just can't be there. At the time, her mother, my mother-in-law, was a tremendous help in that aspect where, she would take Christian for 4 or 5 hours, 6, 7 hours, however long it needed to be. So that was the big thing, was just, like I said, relying heavily on family members to kind of fill the voids.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then when she finished nursing school, how old was your son at that point?
God, he was maybe 1 or 2, probably 1, because she was pregnant in nursing school. Oh no, actually, he would have been a little bit older. He would have been closer to 4, because once she graduated from nursing school, then we ended up having Olivia.
Right.
Um,
I asked that because I'm thinking, as I know, as anybody who sort of has a nurse in his or her life knows, is like when you get your first job as a nurse, they give you the most awful shifts you could possibly imagine. You don't sort of walk in and be like, "Hey, you just graduated from nursing school."
Yeah.
Right?
Well, actually, her first job was at a nursing home.
Right.
So
Before she went to
she
the
was
hospital, yeah.
working. She was working basically Monday through Friday, like 7 to 4.
Yeah.
And when she got that first job, I was able to, again, I can't say enough good things about the folks at Depot. I mean, they've treated me better than I could have ever asked for. So she gets this first job out of nursing school, 7 to 4. And I'm like, okay, that's going to be tough with my schedule. So I went to my store manager and I said, hey, this is what's going on. And I was able to maneuver my schedule where she would work 7 to 4 and I would work from 6 o'clock at night. I'd go in right after dinner till 3 in the morning. And then at 3 in the morning, I would come home, try and sleep for a couple hours, and then get up with everybody because Christian had to go to school, she had to go to work, and inevitably Olivia would wake up. And then it was, hey, it's dad time, feed her, play with her, keep her interested, and just hope that at some point she was going to be ready for nap time because daddy needed nap time. And that we did that for a little over a year. And I don't remember much from those days. Sleep deprivation was something that, washed away a lot of the memories, but
you've heard me say this before. I always say, like, when you become a dad, when you become a parent, you have to adopt the motto that sleep is for sissies. It's just, it's all over.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's, I think it was from Roadhouse when Sam Elliott says, I'll get all the sleep I need when I'm dead. And that's just how it is once you become a parent. It's like sleep is that's about as low on the option list as there can be. It's like, oh, all right, we'll deal with that.
When you were, you and I grew up together in Massachusetts. And so when the kids were first born, you were living there and, we would see each other, when we saw each other and, all the other knuckleheads we went to high school with, we get together. Because I'm starting this question off this way because I found like one of the more difficult parts about being a lead dad is to find, friends, is to find other guys who are in a similar situation to you. So, when you're in Western Massachusetts, you just had, I was a lead dad, but still sort of undercover, but, you had all the rest of us from high school and we'd pop in and the people you grew up with. What's it been like since the move to Burleson, outside of Fort Worth? What's it been like there? I joke, the loneliest person on a playground is the dad in the playground full of moms. So what's that move been like, coming from Massachusetts and going to Texas?
You've hit it right on the head. I mean, loneliest person on the playground. Today, prime example. So I'm off today, obviously, doing this with you. But if I wasn't doing this with you, I would be in my house by myself, doing some laundry, maybe depending on the weather, sometime in the next hour or so, I might sneak off and play 18 holes of golf by myself because I don't know anybody else in this situation. Most of the friends that I've met, fathers of friends of my children, they're 9-to-5ers, or what used to be considered 9-to-5ers, but they work Monday through Friday. They have their weekends. I don't have that. I have Monday, Tuesday is my weekend. So, and like you said too, is you go to these functions as the dad with your children, and there may be one or two other dads in the entire room of whatever the function may be. It's all moms because as you and Professor Shockley were talking about this in the last podcast, there's still that sort of design that moms do all of this stuff. Dad goes to work and does that, and mom takes care of the kids. And that's just how it's going to be because that's the way it's always been. But for you and I, it's a little different because we go to work and we take care of the kids. Or, from my point, for a long time, I was, and, I told everybody this, I was a part-time employee, full-time dad. I was Mr. Mom and I was okay with that. I loved it. A lot of that comes from, growing up, my father was work, 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 work. And I'll get to the family when I get to the family. He wasn't at all my baseball games as a kid, and he wasn't at any games as a kid because he was always working. So, early on when I became a dad, I said, that's not going to be me. I'm going to be involved in as much as I possibly can be involved in. And that early experience with my son with not being able to be involved in stuff, it really got to me. It hit home. It hurt me that I couldn't be there. So I changed it, and I was happy to change it because honestly, I get more out of seeing them doing their stuff, whatever it may be, than, putting my nose to the grindstone for 80 hours a week. Because like I said, my dream was not to become, the greatest flooring associate in the history of Home Depot. Hey, I like what I do. I love my job most days. Some days aren't so great, but that's true for any job, right? But my kids and my family are definitely where my priorities lie. And if it came to one or the other, kids and family are going to win out every time. And I don't think I've ever tried to hide that from anybody, including Home Depot. I've made it pretty clear that family comes first for me.
Yeah, I mean, you and I, we grew up, always cracking jokes, and I often wonder if that's kind of an armor that lets us be, lead dads. Because I mean, quite frankly, we don't give a shit. Like if we went into a room and it's all moms and nobody's talking to us, well, we're there for our kids. And if somebody talks to us, great. But I don't know if every lead dad is like that. I mean, when you think of the times that you've been able to break through in that group and just be a parent, not be, a dad amongst moms, not to be, just be a parent and to be there for good reason. Like you want to make a play date for your son. You want to make a play date for your daughter. You want to, your daughter's a big softball player now. You got to be able to coordinate the different, what's been the key for you to, have those, breakthrough moments where, the moms just accept you as another parent, just like they are?
I think it just comes from the fact that being there over and over again, the moms start to recognize that, okay, he's taking the role. He's taking the lead on this. He's the one that we're going to deal with because he's the one setting up the play dates. He's the one going to the open houses. He's the one, whatever. And I think that's where it kind of, it really is more of acceptance from the other side where, the moms just kind of go, oh, okay, that's why he's on the playground. Not like, well, what's this guy doing over there on the playground? They finally realize that this is what I do. I'm taking my kids around and we're going to the playground and we're making play dates but I'm the guy. And for the most part, there've been many of my kids' friends' moms that have just, they text me, hey, is Olivia free to sleep over this weekend? Yeah, absolutely. What time do you want me to drop her off?
That's when I know, like that's success to me when they text me, because as my wife, I mean, she just doesn't have a flexible schedule. She's working a lot, and we have this running joke with our dentist, who I'll make the appointment and then the dentist will call her to confirm it. And of course, she's on another call. She doesn't know. And then we don't show up at the appointment. They're like, that's $75. I'm like, I'm not paying you $75. I didn't miss the appointment. You called the wrong person. I mean, it's like this ongoing, frustration. Any hacks to be first on the list for the school to call you or the doctor's office to call you and not Tiff? Any luck?
No, because honestly, with the way things are set up for us now, it's really become much more balanced than it has been in the past. It's really become more of a co-parenting. So, and I actually prefer her to be the one to make the appointments and kind of coordinate all that stuff, whether she's going to be able to take them or not. She's much more organized than I am. So, and then she will then forward me the pertinent information, because you know me, if you give me too much, I'm going to get lost. I just, where are we going? When are we going? Who's going? That's what I need to know. I don't need to know all the other stuff. Just tell me where I need to be, who do I need to take? What time do I have to be there?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Because I talk about the company of dads, and that being a lead dad doesn't mean that you're doing 100% of the parenting.
You can't.
Not at all. You can't. But it means that you're taking on a bigger role than dads have traditionally taken on. You talk about your dad, my dad, and it just wasn't like on their radar to be home and to do these things. But I sometimes find, like, when I'll explain, since starting the company of dads, I'll explain to, one of my golf buddies what I'm doing. And some of them get it intuitively. They're like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. That sounds fun. I could see where, lead dads would need a community. And others look at me like I just bought an elephant and painted it purple and have parked it in my driveway. Like, and why exactly would you want a purple elephant? It's like, I don't want a purple elephant. I want to start a community for lead dads. When you think about, you talked about some of the dads of your kids' friends who are more the, classic 9-to-5ers. Did they have any sense of you taking more of this lead parent role, or was that something you just kind of, like I did for years, just kind of like, kept quiet?
I don't think I don't think the subject ever really came up. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, hey, by the way, I do this, that, it's just, this is so-and-so's dad. And, and quite honestly, we're in kind of a unique situation where on my son's side, he's got really 3 besties that he does everything with. 2 of them have parents that are separated. So then it kind of becomes okay, who's got so-and-so this weekend? Because I need to communicate with them in order to hook everybody up to have a sleepover, or, go to the arcade or whatever it may be. So in that sense, I don't think it ever really came up, because the dads are, by virtue of the fact that they're on their own, are essentially lead dads when they have the child with them. The other folks, there's certainly some ball breaking that goes on with, some of the dads, because, oh, Mr. Mom, like I'm sitting around the table playing coupon poker with the girls on Tuesday afternoon, drinking red wine, and yeah. So there's certainly that, because again, there's that stereotype that goes with it, that all this stuff that we do is mom stuff. That goes back to, the earlier sort of, everybody's locked into their role, and this is, we do mom stuff. Well, no, I do parent stuff. I do what needs to be done to get whatever we have to do. The kids need to go to the doctor. They need to go to the dentist. Well, that's my role, because we make appointments on a day that I'm off, and I take them to the dentist, and then we go to school, and then that's it. But it's not mom stuff, it's parent stuff.
That's exactly it, Tina. This is what I'm hoping to do, is that what we do is normal. It's not like anybody needs a medal or an award. It's just, look, Tiff's schedule is, your schedule is pretty fixed now, but you work at a hospital. Your wife was working in an emergency room through COVID, which is stressful as hell. And, you're trying to maintain your job, but you got the kids at home, as every kid in America was suddenly home, even though, oh, wait, some parents have to work outside the house. What are we going to do here? That was a real, awakening and a real balancing act, but also for, like, I don't know, I have to sort of normalize, like, why couldn't you be the one, in charge when your wife is literally at a hospital trying to keep people alive?
Yeah, absolutely. Why? Exactly. Why couldn't I be? Why can't you? And the one thing I kept thinking to myself, especially like when I was watching your earlier pod, is I'm confused as to why this is a thing. Like, why is it that more dads aren't jumping in and saying, I'm here, what do we need to do? Because to me, it's just a natural thing. It just makes sense. It's what you do as a parent, right? You take care of your kids. And so I don't know, but yeah, when the whole pandemic first hit, COVID, and everything started shutting down, we actually were in a unique situation because obviously she's an essential employee, being an ER nurse. Um, and somehow, for some reason, it was designated that Home Depot associates were an essential employee. I mean, I got a letter from the governor of Texas to keep in my car in case it ever got to the point where they like shut everything down, that I was okay to be out and about because I was an essential employee. So that meant there was no, you need to stay home now. I was still going to work every day.
Right.
But again, like I said, we made it work. There was days where, it was, she was up and Tiff was up and gone to work. I got up, got the kids situated at the table, Liv on one end, Christian on the other end, computers open. All right, you guys ready for school? You were ready for school? All right, I'm going to work. If you need me, anything goes wrong, I'm a text or a phone call away. There's turkey in the fridge, make yourself a sandwich at lunchtime, and I'll see you later. And fortunately at that point, they were old enough where, Christian being 13, 14, Olivia being a little bit younger, but she's very mature for her age. And they were able to kind of help each other and work it through that way. And, it worked. Again, company, Home Depot, when this whole thing started, they said, you know what? We're giving everybody 2 weeks sick time. Just here's 2 weeks worth, 80 hours worth of sick time. Use it however you need to just to get through this. And honestly, without that, I don't think we would have been able to make it through, because I used a lot of that to say, hey, I need to take today off because we just can't make it work at home and somebody needs to be there.
Yeah. This has been great, Tino. Thank you. As we kind of wrap it up here, but when you think about, going forward, I mean, the pandemic has been a break. I mean, a break, not a break as in relaxation, but a break as in a schism between, what the world was in 2019 and now we don't know what the world is going to be, but it's obviously different. When you think about, what you could say to, the moms and dads out there, in our role as, a lead dad, and what we're trying to do and how this should just be considered a normal role. What are some of those things that you might say to those moms and dads who don't quite understand, what a lead dad is?
The first thing I would say to the lead dads is don't hide. Don't try and downplay it. And, when you get with your buddies, be honest, come out, say, yeah, I'm a lead dad, or, I'm Mr. Mom. Break the ice with the joke, because eventually that's what it's going to turn to, and your buddies are going to bust your chops, and you just got to deal with it. But it's honestly, for me, it's the greatest thing I could have ever done in my life, is be as involved as I possibly can be with my kids. Whether it's taking them to appointments, taking them to play dates, taking them to activities. So be out front, be open about it. Don't hide it. You should be proud of what you're doing, because it's a great thing you're doing. And as far as the moms go, we're not the creepy guy at the playground. We're there because we're with our kids. Come over and say hi. We're good people, I swear.
This is fantastic. Tino Ricci, thank you for joining me on the Company of Dads podcast.
Anytime, brother. Anything you need.